What's up, everybody? We're live. We're actually like 5 minutes early. It's at 11:15. So if you're not 5 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late. Is that what the saying is? All right. Well, let's jump on in. I have a story here, the beginning story. We're going to do 4 stories today. We're going to talk about dystopian San Francisco. Let me get the chat going here. Yep, we've got that going. We're going to talk about the dystopian downtown San Francisco. We've got a tech executive who did a walk from wherever her work was to a bar. And she did like a series of 12 tweets. Some pretty wild stuff. Nothing new, but she's an executive and she's calling the city out. She's just basically going hard. She's just like, this isn't working. What are we going to do here? We've got that story. Seattle City Attorney is suing Hyundai and Kia over basically not having a recall because there's been such an exponential spike in the stealing of Hyundai and Kia cars here in Seattle. And she is Ann Davidson. She's our Seattle City prosecutor. I was a big fan of hers when she got elected. I think she's doing a great job. She'll do good things for the city. She's actually cracking down on crime, but she's going after Hyundai and Kia because they haven't done much they've got a manufacturer's error, and it's super easy to steal those cars. I'm going to talk about that. Fox News crushes CNN and MSNBC and the morning show. The whole thing there is just the numbers of Fox, 3 times what they are on MSNBC and CNN. It's wild stuff. It's like, how is this even happening? Meanwhile, we got Don Lemon doing a bunch of crazy stuff. We'll get into that as well. Now, our last story is, I talked about this a little bit, I think yesterday on yesterday's live stream. I talked about there's this couple that are basically living in an encampment on the median in between a city street and probably Seattle's busiest on-ramp, off-ramp into downtown Seattle. And they are building their own tiny home in an encampment with 99% of the materials coming out of dumpsters. That's what we're talking about. All right, let's jump on in. Let's see what we got. It looked like dystopia. San Francisco tech executive describes trip to downtown bar that left her scared, where hundreds of homeless people and drug addicts were folded over outside shuttered businesses. I did a podcast about xylazine and it got demonetized. The powers that be said, there are no advertisers suitable for this topic. Don't like it. Don't like you talking about the drug addicted. But some of the comments were, hey, the xylazine thing, I've seen that on videos here on YouTube about people in Philadelphia. Is that what you're talking about? And yeah, that is what I'm talking about. The doubled over, folded over comment here leads me to believe that there's some of that probably going on in San Fran right now. I have no reason to believe that other than some video I've seen, but I've never seen the doubled over. I've seen it once in downtown Seattle. That was last summer, but I haven't seen the doubled over. Literally where your head, you're standing up, but your head is in between your knees, doubled over like that. I mean, it's just, subhuman. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But this is what we're getting into. Let me scroll down here. And so we've got a San Francisco tech executive has branded the downtown area dystopian. That's a great term. After she walked past hundreds of homeless people, Michelle Tandler, 37, shared a picture from her Saturday night trip to a bar in the wilting Democrat-run city. Gotta remember, this is Daily Wire. So they're going to have a little, this is not Daily Wire, Daily Mail. Although, they'd probably use the same language, right? Wilting Democratic-run city. She posted the image of a distressing scene that featured a group of homeless men surrounded by trash and graffiti. It comes to cities such as San Francisco, Portland, and Philadelphia. They left out Seattle. I'm feeling left out here. They're being outed for their homelessness and drug crisis. So now you've literally got executives, because it used to be nobody in these towns, nobody in these cities would say anything, right? They're just like, well, We're just kind of waiting for something to happen positively here. And we're told that, the harm reduction is going to work. We're told that housing first is going to work. Meanwhile, what did I see? One of the executives in LA is making $430,000 a year as homelessness just explodes. How's that work? I mean, we heard Joe Rogan talk about, the homeless industrial complex. And nothing's going to change because these people are making big money. 430 grand? That's a chunk of change. I mean, maybe they're running a big company, but could you imagine in the real private sector? Let's see. Let me look at your metrics here. You're making $430,000 a year. You didn't do your job. The situation you were tasked with taking care of got way worse. It went in the wrong direction. Your statistics have gone way down. Let me give you a raise. Let's give you a raise. Let's see. 430 grand. It might have been 420. I don't know. It was over 400. That's what caught my eye. I'm like, all right. And this is in LA. I don't remember seeing any stories about things getting remarkably better there. I don't. Maybe I missed them. Maybe if I did miss them and there's a huge turnaround in LA, put them on my Discord channel, Reasonable Plus. So we've got a video up on the YouTube channel, kind of how to do the whole Discord thing, making it easier. We've had a bunch of people join. You can go in there. You can post. Somebody posted a Rambo video in the fun section. I like that stuff because we talk about hardcore stuff all day long. Sometimes you need a little bit of, you need some entertainment. And that's what I try and do here. But the topics, yeah, they're tough. These are tough. This is tough. You got an executive who's like, what is going on in San Francisco? So let's keep going here. Pictures of downtown San Francisco shared by Michelle Tandler on Sunday morning. She said because of the scene of drug-addled homeless people around her, she felt unsafe. This is the conversation I've been having with one of my kids who was actually on the podcast yesterday. And he's like, Dad, it's mostly safe. I'm like, okay, yeah, but you're in your late 20s. You're still kind of fearless. The rest of us are like, nah, I'm not going out after like 9 p.m. I'm not going out like this young lady is here. By young lady, 37. That's pretty young, right? That's pretty young. So here's her tweet. This is the start of her tweet. Last night, I went to a bar in downtown San Francisco. It looked like a dystopia. I saw hundreds of people folded over, likely high in fentanyl. All right, so she knows her stuff. She's not coming she's not coming from Ohio going, what is this we are looking at, right? Not coming from somewhere where they just don't have this stuff. Although I do enjoy seeing those videos. There was one taken a while ago of a family that had just come here from like Kansas and they were in Seattle. And they were like, we just saw people living in a tent on the sidewalk. Can they do that? Is that legal? If you did that in our town back in Kansas or wherever it was, you'd be arrested. And they were just like shocked. They were floored. Welcome to Seattle. Welcome to Philadelphia. Welcome to San Francisco. So she saw hundreds of people folded over, likely high in fentanyl, or sitting on the sidewalk smoking. Okay. Almost every person looked homeless. Probably because they are, and she knows that, but she can't confirm, so she's gonna see, yeah, they look homeless. I felt scared to park and walk 2 blocks. Well, that's because you probably should be. You should probably have an armed escort, right? I mean, that's the conversation I have with my kid. And he's like, Dad, but just don't go out after midnight. And all I can think of is after midnight. God, I'm in bed long ago. Last night, I went to a bar in downtown San Francisco. It looked like a dystopia. Tandler claims that San Francisco is at a breaking point as it pertains to ongoing and rampant homelessness problem, as well as drug use in the streets and lax criminal prosecution policies fostered by progressive politicians and city officials. How is this gonna end up? What is the course of this going to look like? Because we're on the front end of everybody the elephant is in the room, right? Elephant's in the room. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Treatment is housing. Everybody wants to focus on, well, if they just had a home. And that to me is just, that's some nonsense by people who don't really get it. Businesses are shutting down and leaving, she wrote. The homeless, rightfully so or not, have taken over downtown San Francisco. The status quo is unsustainable, she declared. Last week, Collier Gwynn, the man who was filmed spraying down a homeless woman who refused to move away from his gallery front, was arrested. We talked about that. Got the podcast here of that on here on this channel. We got a second podcast where he was arrested. The first one was this video came up and everybody in San Francisco was just, they're all, I can't believe that happened. That's so horrific. Now, what's horrific is what this tech executive is describing that's being reported on here. The city's district attorney said he would face charges, talking about the owner, the gallery owner. He would face charges for the incident that occurred on January 9th in front of the Foster Gwynn Gallery. The incident prompted an initial public outcry, but some San Francisco residents, Tandler among them, took a more nuanced view of the unfortunate interaction. And that's kind of what I said is, hey, you're missing the whole context of what this guy as a business owner has been dealing with that the city of San Francisco has not been dealing with, that has just basically abandoned their tax-paying residents, abandoned their tax-paying businesses to the point where, a group of businesses in the Castro have said, yeah, we don't really want to pay taxes anymore. You guys aren't doing anything for us. Why should we pay taxes? And I totally agree. But again, not paying your taxes, taking a hose to a homeless woman and getting videotaped, optics on those are not good, right? I mean, and we just know, all right, you get caught for one of those deals, it's not going to look good. The incident, okay, so we got the initial public outcry. Recently, a man in San Francisco was arrested for spraying a homeless woman with water, she wrote. She had been camping in front of his shop for weeks, screaming, defecating, scattering trash. He lost his patience and engaged in a cruel act. This is what she is tweeting out as kind of context for, all right, here's what he was dealing with. Here is what the gallery owner was working with. And he lost his cool and he squirted her. It's not like he, did some crazy physical violence thing toward her. He didn't. So, a lot of you guys have said, the only thing that was wrong with that is they didn't use soap. It's, again, harsh. I get it. But so does the business owner. He's like, hey, my sidewalk is a mess. This woman is making a mess out of public space that people should be able to use to get to businesses up and down this street. And that's just not happening. So guy lost his cool and sprayed her down and said, move on, move. Literally just said that. He'd been allowing her to camp under his awning for weeks, but she clearly needed more, wrote Tandler. Where was San Francisco government? California, the federal government? They're nowhere on any of this. City government is on some sweeps, some intermittent sweeps. And I've been talking about that a lot. We've got an encampment that's going to be part 4 of today's live stream. Sorry. This podcast, and at the end of this segment, we'll have a story, and it has to do with encampments being swept, and then that whole whack-a-mole, they come back, because the one where they're building a house on the median section in between the street and the on-ramp, that was swept out like a year ago. I don't know exactly, but, because it doesn't really matter, but it's been swept recently because they had massive fires, and we'll see some of that video. Who owns the sidewalk? Should she be allowed to camp and block passage onto his store? Good questions. No. And these people, the woman that we saw in that video, we know she's homeless, whether she's mentally ill or addicted to drugs, whatever her issue is, she shouldn't be living on the sidewalk. That is lack of compassion right there. Was he defending his property? Is that allowed? She continued. Well, apparently not, because he got arrested. I think you can defend your territory, but man, you can't go hands-on. So effectively, can you defend your territory? Yeah, you need to be careful, right? Need to be careful. Somebody's always watching. Some jackass has a cell phone. He's going to put that on TikTok and say, look at this. Crimes against humanity. They hosed her down. Tandler added that she, along with many others in search of a humanitarian option, but does not believe the city's homeless population should be given a free pass to camp on the streets, effectively taking over parts of the city. And we've got an image of the guy just kind of so nonchalantly hosing this woman down. He was literally just kind of, like this was an everyday occurrence. That's kind of how it felt, right? Because this woman is probably out there, or was out there, just every single day. And, that's not where people should be living. That's not where people should be doing. And government should take care of that. So we got some photos here of just kind of, exactly what's going on. Rows of homeless tents are seen near the City Hall of San Francisco outside residential properties and small business premises earlier this year. One of the stories that I chose not to read today, that I'm not going to get into, but I might tomorrow, is City of Portland is going to bring in, I think it's 3 security guards for some horrific amount a year for like City Hall, because things are, they're a little bit unsafe. They're unsafe. So City Hall, residents, don't arm yourselves. We need you to be unarmed and just deal with things. Just work on de-escalation tactics. But here in City Hall, we're gonna hire some firepower because, geez, we need it. There's some nut jobs outside of here. Wild stuff, right? Homeless tents in the Tenderloin area of San Francisco, where a rampant homeless population have taken over many blocks. This is kind of the scene that we're looking at right here. This is kind of, with the exception of these are bigger buildings in the downtown core. This is what areas of Seattle look like. This is what areas of, this reminds me, the size of the tents here that we're looking at, that reminds me of Skid Row. Just all the footage that we've seen of Skid Row, where you've got, those are some jumbo family-sized tents, right? You got 8 to 12 people tents in there, 3 or 4 vestibules. And why wouldn't they do that? You get 300 square feet in one of those bad boys. If somebody's going to allow you to live on the sidewalk and do that, pay any taxes, they come by and throw you some clean needles every now and then and throw some food at you, and you can go get free clothes. And, this is how we got where we are. Homeless men are seen on a sidewalk near San Francisco City Hall, where legislators drew up increasingly relaxed policies that fail to protect any part of the city's vulnerable population. So we've got this deal where we view this as compassion by just letting them do whatever they want to do. Somehow this is compassionate. Doesn't seem compassionate to me at all. It seems like just a complete lack of responsibility. But this is just kind of how it goes in these West Coast cities, right? Just got more images of, your standard just nonsense of people doing their own thing on the sidewalks. And by their own thing, I mean drugs. She wrote that she believes the city may be on the precipice of vigilantism. I've talked about that. People taking things into their own hands. That doesn't surprise me. If I scroll down here a little bit more, we'll get video footage here. Let's just watch this dude again. All right. There he is. He's just doing his work. Yeah, it's kind of brutal to watch, but it's also brutal to watch all these people just living the way they are with zero repercussions, and this just going on, right? She wrote that she believes the city is on the precipice of vigilantism. When home values fall, people will follow their natural urge to protect their families and net worth. This anarcho tyranny needs to come to an end, she wrote. Anarcho tyranny, that is an interesting couple of words there, right? Hyphenated word. She also hit out against the so-called harm reduction policies in the city that allow homelessness and others to publicly access syringes and shoot up at injection sites. That has been a hot topic. City-funded injection sites. Just shut one down in San Francisco. You had 23,000 people use it. You had like 18 people take a look at treatment. 18 out of 23,000. I think those are the numbers. It's supposed to be a place where, you get clean needles, and it's that harm reduction. All right, if they're going to do it anyway, let's make it safe. It's just making it worse. There's no way that this isn't just literally making it worse. Because in towns where you don't have these kind of policies, You're not seeing this. This isn't a thing. It's not on the streets everywhere. It's not running rampant. So, this is one of those social experiments that we're watching unfold in real time. And it's kind of like, well, this just isn't really working out all that well, is it? So she goes on to say, all I see is harm, she wrote. Instead of harm reduction, we got just harm. Yeah. And it's harming these folks to the point where they are dying in record numbers. The number of homeless people in San Francisco was tallied in February of last year at almost 8,000, second highest figure of any year since 2005, according to the official government count, which takes place every 3 years. That's a little distracting for me to have that guy just continually hosing her down. It almost certainly ballooned since the last count. Business owners in some of San Francisco's neighborhoods have threatened to stop paying taxes if politicians don't start cleaning up streets of litter and stopping people from being just the animals that they are. I made up that last part because it wasn't on the screen. So we've got Mayor London Breed here beginning to take some of the blame for the homeless crisis engulfing her city. She initially came on strong, and then, unless you take a hard stance on some of this stuff, unless you start putting people involuntarily into treatment, unless you start taking the mentally ill off the streets and involuntarily putting them into institutions, unless you start to really crack down on crime, expect much of the same, right? Expect much of the same. This picture here dates back to the summer of 2018. The city's government has long been accused of doing little to help solve the problem. So you've just got much of the same. And yet you've got these folks running the homelessness deals, salaries of $200,000, $400,000. I mean, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild that, somehow they're going to get a raise for basically not doing their job in a way that you should be rewarded for job performance, because homelessness has risen and gotten worse. And yet we're told, well, we need to spend more money. How many billions of dollars do we need to throw at this before we go, you know what, maybe, I don't know, maybe this approach isn't working. Maybe we should do a $2 million study and find out, right? That's kind of what it feels like. It's like, what are we really doing here? Okay, let's get down and we'll take a look. You got some more, much of the same here from our tweeting friend, tech executive. In a letter to city officials from last summer, the Castro Merchants Association said some of the homeless people in the streets outside their stores have been harassing customers and needed help. They should be in a mental institution somewhere. They should be medicated somewhere. They need help. They need to get some counseling. They need whatever it is. They're not going to find it on the sidewalk in San Francisco. They're just not. So, but people know that they don't want to do anything about it. But because the cat's out of the bag. So what are you going to do? We're going to watch it from afar and just kind of see how it works out. They need shelter and or services, and they need them immediately, the Merchants Association said. Our community is struggling to recover from lost business revenue, from burglaries and never-ending vandalism/graffiti, often committed by unhoused persons. That's one of those causal things, right? You've got these people, and I feel like it's the homeless folks that are creating the graffiti that we're seeing on such a large scale in these cities. Seattle's got a real graffiti problem. It just looks so horrific. It just looks so third world, right? They want to try and convince me that that's art. No, it's street art. Every tag tells a story. No, it's vandalism. You just vandalized city property. You just vandalized private property. You just vandalized a stop sign, city property. That's vandalism. You should be in jail. I got carded the other day for buying spray paint at Home Depot. And I was like, what is this? Is this because they're huffing it? Or is this because of graffiti is such a problem? It was in Bellevue. I scanned my 1 can of white appliance paint because I'm sanding down and painting the wire shelving in the fridge in my boat, both of them. And I needed a couple of cans of spray paint. Got carded for spray paint. What's up with that? I mean, I kind of know that, that's a thing, but I guess I haven't bought spray paint in a while. But now you got to be over, is it 18? Is it 21? I mean, it used to be just like tobacco products and booze, but now I guess it's, stuff at home. You can't have that, sir. You're only 17. Yeah, I just want to paint something. Yeah, because kids are buying paint for, graffiti purposes, and then they're also huffing it. That's not good. Coat those lungs and shut them down. Our community is struggling to recover from lost business revenue. We read about that. Major crimes in San Francisco are up 7.4% so far last year. So I take all these crime statistics and I figure, let's double that, because so much of this stuff just doesn't get reported. That's my estimate. That's my, getting the little bump in there, because I think all these stats are regularly underreported. Up 7.4% so far last year from the same period in 2021, with assault up 11% and robbery up 5%. The robbery? It's got to be way more than that. I was reading a independent study had been done on the homeless count, and I can't remember what city it was, but I think it was LA, might have been LA, or a neighborhood in LA, and they were walking through how the homeless count was inaccurate, and they were walking through what they did as an independent study to kind of verify and get more accurate numbers. Because when, in a lot of that on this stuff too, a lot of these crimes are no longer being reported. People have given up. Businesses have given up. Nah, I know I need to. And you literally hear stories about it. I know I should be reporting this, but it's a huge waste of my time because nothing's going to happen. And I got to deal with the broken glass. I got to deal with, getting a window company in here. I got to deal with, all that stuff. So, they're not necessarily calling the police because they know nothing's really going to happen, but they should. They should, unfortunately. So the stats all read out, and then the political leaders can go, this is really way worse than we thought, which it typically is, right? A recent poll found that a majority of San Franciscans believe that their city is going downhill, and a third plan to leave the city within 3 years. All right, that's the stat right there that I found really interesting. A third of them plan to leave the city within 3 years. Where are they going to go? A third of the population of San Francisco is talking about exit stage left. That's a lot of folks. If that happened, say a fraction of those folks left. Imagine what that does to the tax base. I mean, that's pretty wild. Now, we've been hearing that in these cities that people are going to leave. It's kind of like Miley Cyrus saying, if Trump gets elected, I'm moving to Canada. She's still here. I think Tommy Lee from Motley Crue said the same. That guy gets elected, I'm out of here. I'm moving to Canada. All right, Tommy Lee. See ya. Bye-bye. Miley, bye-bye. But that didn't happen, right? They stay. They just say a bunch of stuff. They get their Twitter juice, and then they just, no, I can't leave. I got to fight the good fight and stay here in the United States. And Orange Man bad. Some residents blame Mayor London Breed, whose earlier popularity for steering the city through the pandemic appears to have waned amid rising crime, the fentanyl epidemic, and other woes. How about Governor Cuomo and his brother? What happened to them? Because they were the dog and pony show that was on the news night after night after night during the whole COVID thing, weren't they? Yeah. And then they just crash and burn. I think Cuomo's brother, Chris Cuomo, he's on some news show and he's getting a fraction of the views that he was before. So, there is justice out there. And what Andrew Cuomo is doing, I don't know. Got a video here of, we'll play this. That's a good look. That's nice. Imagine having these businesses open up in the morning. Just got to, okay. Yeah. I mean, dude without a shirt on, just whacked out of his mind. There's a good look. I'd go there. I mean, it's mostly clean. You know what I mean? It's just like, how did we get here? What? Okay, the guy's cleaning his foot off, and I understand that fentanyl does some really rough stuff to your feet. Got some tents. Probably cost the city 10 grand a tent. I got a keyboard over there. Where'd we steal that from? Or is that our burgeoning music career? All right. I feel so sorry for people in wheelchairs trying to get around through this stuff. Okay. What are we pushing through the intersection here? What do we got going there? What's happening? Is that like one of those old school egg chairs? It is. Yeah, we've just got some shenanigans on the sidewalk. Got somebody we dealing? Yeah. Don't know. Just stuff. That's the daily stuff you see. And everybody's just like, well, here's a person just completely crashed out on the sidewalk. Cops trying to help him. It's just so sad. So, are we supposed to help every single one of them? Well, if you don't, you let them die. Some of you might say, hey, that's the way this goes. And unfortunately, that is true. But these are somebody's kids. These are somebody's mom, somebody's dad. The whole thing just sucks. And it's sad, right? One specific harm reduction policy that failed was opening of the Tenderloin Center last year. That's the one that I was talking about that had like 23,000 people. Here's the stats actually right here. One specific harm reduction policy that failed was the opening of the Tenderloin, which was meant to help alleviate the city's drug and homelessness crisis. It cost taxpayers a whopping $22 million and was meant to be a safe place for addicts to get high without getting robbed and without fear of fatally overdosing. Because they were going to give them a bunch of, overdose drugs if they did overdose. How does this help anybody? It doesn't. I mean, it just barely keeps them alive because if they shoot up or if they snort or if they smoke, a block down the street and they don't get the help they need, they're dead. This is wild. Overall, less than 1% of visits ended in a completed linkage to behavioral health programs. That's what I was talking about. Less than 1%. I think it was like 18. Despite their efforts, 2022 saw upward of 500 people die from overdoses in San Francisco. In 2021, that figure was 641. I did a podcast this morning, or we released one. I'm on the premieres, typically Monday through Friday. You'll find me doing chats with all you guys who want to watch the video come out for the first time. And this morning, the topic was King County health officials are basically looking for additional storage space for dead bodies because there are so many dead bodies piling up from fentanyl overdoses. True story. Check out that podcast. I mean, that's wild, right? I mean, it's just, how do we get to this point? Officials had also hoped the site would offer a place to deal with the homeless crisis the city had faced in recent months and years. Mayor Breed originally allotted just $10 million for the project, but it quickly ballooned to more than double that estimate. In total, some 400 individuals were provided with assistance each day. We're still talking about the center, the shoot-up center. A large portion of those who took advantage of the site used it specifically for shelter or food, which they desperately need. And you know what? Treatment is housing. Stole that from a tweet from We Heart Seattle. They're the group that goes out and picks up garbage and helps homeless people out for free. They are donation-based, and city officials have, at times said, don't pick up that garbage. That's not yours to pick up. It's their garbage. Leave it alone. You guys are bad. They pick up hundreds of thousands of dollars for free. Yeah, wild, huh? Okay, that's it for story number 1. I'm going to check out what you guys are talking about over here, seeing what you guys are chatting about. You cannot escape the consequences of your own choices. Eventually, it always catches up to you. It does, doesn't it? Yeah, Lot's daughter are an example of people seduced by existential doubt. I don't remember the Lot's daughter story. I remember reading that, a biblical reference there, and things did not work out for Lot's daughter. I'm trying to remember the Lot's daughter story. I don't remember. Or blind faith. Yep. I understand, Sean, that it's hard to say, let them die. The issue is you kidnap them, force them to get clean, turn them loose, they immediately get high again, and then they die. 100%. yeah, that is, even people who voluntarily go in and do that, unless they're on a pathway of wanting to get clean, not going to happen, is it? Not going to happen. So this is kind of that stalemate that I talk about. We've enabled this situation to go on for so long that how are you gonna wrap it back? How are you gonna back it down? Don't know. You're only delaying the inevitable. Yep, that's probably true. Funny how during lockdowns, everything was taken out of plastic containers. The government is out of their mind. 1 minute, there's all about saving the world. Yeah, I know, right? Government's not here for us. They're there for themselves, and then they give us lip service that we're trying to help you out. They should be held until they detox, then offer treatment. 9 days is worked in one study. Yeah, maybe to get them detoxed, it works, but then long term, they don't have the skill set to make it go sober, and they just go back to using, especially if they've been using for 3 months is more realistic. So like 90 days, we're saying 90 days for treatment. I think the 30 days does not work. I think 30 days is too short, but that's what insurance companies pay for. So 90 days, I have no issues with that. People get clean and sober all the time. Many go to live good lives. That is absolutely true. It's like it just takes some people a long time to hit that 180-degree turn that you're kind of talking about. This only stops when people stop voting for it. Freedman's Journal, you are 100% correct. And thank you, by the way. Appreciate that. This only stops when people stop voting for it. How many podcasts have I said, make your vote count? I'm not saying who you need to vote for. And oftentimes I will not define all of this going on as leftist policy or Democrat-run cities, because you don't even need to go there. You can just read the story and everybody knows what the deal is. The powers that be know what the deal is because I get censored. We do that all day long and got censored in one this morning. What a drag. And by censorship, sometimes that means, Sean, there's no appropriate advertisers that want to advertise on your video. Can't find any. And yet I see similar content from different perspective. And it's like, hey, they're getting advertisers all day long. What's going on? So, all right, here we go. Story number 2. This is an interesting one because initially I said when there were city officials that were saying, hey, we're going to sue Kia and Hyundai over, their manufacturer's defects. At the time, I was kind of like, give them the chance to do a manufacturer's recall. And I'm sure they'll do that. Well, they haven't. They've done some jerry-rig things. And if you bring your car in, they'll put some kind of Mickey Mouse system on that will not allow your car to be stolen. But the bottom line here is so many Kias and Hyundais in Seattle are specifically being stolen in a number of neighborhoods that the city attorney, who is a legit city attorney, she's come right out and said, nope, we're suing you guys because they're not doing what they need to do to stop this from happening. Because if you haven't followed this story, and we'll read about it in a second here, but there's a really easy way with a USB flash drive and a cable and, TikTok smarts. You learn about it on TikTok. Literally, that's how this exploded over TikTok. You got the TikTok boys who are stealing Kias and Hyundais. So Seattle City Attorney sues Kia and Hyundai over increased car thefts. And initially I thought that is some BS. But now that enough time has gone by where these manufacturers had the option to do a big recall and they did not, from what I can tell, and they've kind of let this draw on. So now got to have some pressure. Seattle City Attorney Ann Davison, who I think is doing a good job. She's doing what she needs to do, but she's got a massive uphill battle, right? Because she inherited 5,000 cases that were on hold during the whole pandemic. Seattle City Attorney Ann Davison has filed a lawsuit against Kia and Hyundai for their alleged role in an exponential increase of car theft in Seattle and other regions. Davidson's office claims that the two car companies' failure to install anti-theft technology has contributed to an increase of their car models being stolen in Seattle and across the region. In the last 2 years, thefts of Kia and Hyundai cars increased by 363%. Kia and Hyundai, 503% in Seattle. That's just in Seattle. This is according to the lawsuit. Seattle Police Department reported a 620% increase in reports of stolen Hyundais and Kias in July 2022 over the previous July. So they went through the roof. So what's the deal here? Well, Kia and Hyundai, they're looking at it going, well, that recall is going to cost us too much because they've got guys that run all the numbers. Like, that recall is going to cost us too much. What we're going to do here, this is how we're going to mitigate, massive loss on this deal. We know we've done some wrong. Moving forward, and so in 2021, they started to put the anti-theft, technology into the cars that they should have already had. We're going to do that moving forward so we can point to these newer cars. They've got the technology that prevents them from being stolen by the TikTok boys. And I'm sure there's some TikTok girls out there as well, right? And so, but that's only for the newer cars, 2021, 2022. So if you've got an older model car, yes, and we'll read about it. Yes, there are some things you can do, but they are not really working. So Ann Davison is saying, hey, you guys need to fix this. We're going to sue you. It's what we got to do to make this right. So I found that interesting that it has gotten so bad to the point where Seattle City Attorney, she doesn't mess around. She's getting in there and she's getting some work done. And she's a newly hired attorney. And so she's not one that just kind of will throw out a lawsuit like the legislation down in Oregon to stop the use of kangaroo leather from being put on soccer cleats in Oregon, when in fact kangaroos are a pest. That whole thing. That's coming out in a podcast. She's not doing that kind of thing. She's got a real reason for doing this. Davidson added that Kia and Hyundai are aware of the public safety concerns arising from the huge spike in theft of their vehicles, but they have not taken meaningful steps to address the problem. So when they didn't backpedal and say, okay, we're going to fix this, we're going to take care of this, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a recall. Anybody who has this model car, this model car, this model car, we're going to take care of it for you. Now they Mickey Moused it. And so now these cars are still being stolen and the city of Seattle is going, hey, we need to stop this. This is ridiculous. Kia and Hyundai chose to cut corners and cut costs at the expense of their customers and the public, Davidson said in a statement. As a result, our police force has had to tackle a huge rise in vehicle theft and related problems with already stretched resources. Now Seattle taxpayers must shoulder the burden of the increase in theft. Seattle is right in line, lockstep with Portland from the standpoint of not enough cops. So we talk about property crime. Talked yesterday about, somebody asked me about we've got a King County prosecutor coming in, some of the things that they're looking at doing, because our criminal activity has, it hasn't gotten better. And yet we've got fewer police. Most notably, Seattle police and their sexual assault unit doesn't really exist. Down in Portland, they've got one cop for traffic. So you've got some departments that are wildly undermanned, they don't have enough people. And, you can only have the cops do the overtime for so much, and they just can't get to it. So Ann Davison here, to me, is getting at the root cause. All right, if they figure out a real solution, we're going to have to sue them, to get it done, because they're cutting these corners, because their loss mitigation experts have said, nope, we'll just go ahead and we'll take the lawsuit. We'll battle the lawsuit. We'll see how this goes in court, because it's cheaper for them to roll the dice and go down that road than it is to do the recall. Happens all the time in consumer goods, right? All the time. Videos posted on social media showed how to steal Kia car models simply by removing a plastic piece under the steering wheel and using a USB cord and turning it like a key. If it's that simple, this makes absolute sense, right? Then I have no reason to believe it's not. I've watched the video on how to do it, It looks pretty basic to me. I haven't tried it because I don't really need to steal a Hyundai or a Kia. There is a Kia like little SUV out there that I think is pretty cool. It's one of those cars you'll roll up to in a parking garage and you'd be like, that's a nice, what model is, oh, that's a Kia? Well done. Hopefully it has the, theft prevention, whatever it is in there. Since more people know how to steal Kia and Hyundai cars, the number of reported thefts of Hyundais and Kia went from 48 in August to 197 in December last year, according to Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz. It was a real thing. All of a sudden, the numbers just spiked. And you would read news stories about, well, it was a stolen Hyundai. It was a stolen Kia. It makes sense, right? Easy to steal. Why wouldn't you? Hyundai Super Group Manager Ira Gabriel told the Center Square in an email that the company found the lawsuit improper and unnecessary. Improper. What is improper about it? I would like a definition on that. And unnecessary? Well, if there weren't this many cars being stolen, I would agree with you. However, it appears, since you guys aren't willing to do anything, probably is necessary. See you in court, right? Isn't that how it always goes? I'll see you in court. I'll take some of our shareholders' money and I'll fight a little lawsuit and we'll just roll the dice. We'll see how this goes. Gabriel added that in response to an increase of thefts targeting Hyundai vehicles without push-button ignitions and immobilizing anti-theft devices in the United States, Hyundai Motor America has made engine immobilizers standard on all vehicles produced as of November 2021. All right, so that's what they point to, but hey, all these cars here. Well, we're not talking about those. We're talking about the models before that without this stuff that are being stolen in record numbers. Oh, okay. Well, there's that. That's what the lawsuit's all about, right? Engine immobilizers are anti-theft systems. The car only starts by an electronic code transmitted by a smart key fob that matches the code of the vehicle, or if it's turned into the ignition switch. Hyundai is also providing free steering wheel locks. I found that laughable. Because, those work, Free steering wheel locks as available to select law enforcement agencies across the country, including in the Seattle area, for distribution to local residents who own or lease affected models. So if worse comes to worse, you could probably reach out if you have one of these models. I think we've got folks that have reached out to this podcast that have said, hey, what do I do here? So that is something that you might want to consider. There's got to be a website out there. Owners may also bring their vehicles to a local Hyundai dealer for the purchase and installation of a customized security kit. All right, but they're not really doing a recall. They're adding something on. They're not reworking the existing system, right? We apologize for the inconvenience to affected customers. Not really. Otherwise, you'd fix it. And that's what Ann Davison is saying. She's saying, hey, you got to fix this stuff. Our cops are running around willy-nilly. They got other stuff they got to work on. Stealing of your cars, which you have admitted you've got an issue with. Kia said it was concerned that criminal actors are targeting certain Kia cars. Really? You're concerned? We're watching it happen in real time, and you're concerned. All right. Well, there's that. The statement added that all 2022 models and trims have an immobilizer applied either at the beginning of the year or as a running change. That's the 2022 models. Talking about the old cars. Talking about the old models, right? Talking about practice. Vehicle thefts of unprotected Kia and Hyundai models occur predominantly in the Seattle neighborhoods of Northgate. All right. It's up north just a little bit. It's kind of up by Aurora, where you've got all the ladies from California coming here because we've basically just encouraged prostitution and human trafficking here in Seattle. We've got Capitol Hill. That's the land of chopped jazz. We know that to be a fun neighborhood. The Central District, okay, and Beacon Hill. They're all kind of in that right around downtown core. This is according to the city attorney's office. So we know that these two model cars are being stolen in basically 4 specific neighborhoods of Seattle. That's what the lawsuit says. I wonder what they're demanding. What are their demands? I didn't figure that out. I did a little bit of research, and then I got stuck watching some ridiculous video that had nothing to do with anything. Actually, I think it was, that 6-year-old kid that brought a gun to school and shot his teacher. She went like this, and boom, we went through the hand into her chest. She's still got the bullet in her chest, but the issue with that school is there was a number of points in time up into that shooting where people are like, that that first grader's got a gun. And another kid was crying because the first grader said, I'm going to shoot you with this gun, and showed him the gun. Teachers didn't do anything. Administration didn't do anything. That happened like 3 or 4 times before that shooting on that same day. So it sounds like some heads are going to roll with that one. Yeah, not good. Not good. And that one's way worse than having your Kia, your Hyundai stolen, because you got a first grader that killed somebody. That didn't kill somebody, but attempted to. And she still got the bullet in her chest. That's awful. All right, that's it for me on this one. We're going to move on to the next one here. But in the meantime, I'm going to take a drink out of my water and see what you guys are talking about. Pfizer is creating a new virus experimenting on monkeys so that they can develop a new vaccine to make profit. Article in the news today. I've kind of heard about that. The 1% has done that. We're talking about the ultra rich. We shouldn't give the rich any tax breaks. Did you guys hear about, and thank you, Karen. Did you guys hear about California? Excuse me. They were going to tax their millionaires 1% of their wealth and their billionaires 1.5% of their wealth. And that tax would chase them. It would follow them if they moved out of the state. So remember that billboard that Governor Newsom put up in Texas saying, hey, come back to California. We've got real freedom here. He was trying to spin it from the standpoint of you get an abortion. That's your freedom. All right. Well, Florida's got that worked out. They figured out what they need to do. And if you move to Florida, you're probably on board with that. Could you imagine on Newsom's, the fine print? This is what came to my mind. But you will still be taxed 1% if you're a millionaire and you leave. And if you're a billionaire, you will be taxed 1.5% annually of your net worth. You'll be taxed that. That's what California is doing. No wonder people are leaving. It's wild. It's wild. Yeah, so the segregationist Democrats passed all those tax laws, so thank them. Okay, you guys are kind of getting into some. There are no solutions. You know what? Sometimes that's what I think. And so I'm like, but if all these problems went away, what would we talk about? What would we talk about? I don't know. It's like, well, I got one of my buddies that lives in Boise, Idaho. He moved there from here. And I said, he asked the other day, hey, Sean, when are you going to move? And I'm like, I'm not. I'm going to stay behind and fight the good fight. Plus, what do you got going on in Boise, Idaho? What crime can I report there? I got all the good stuff here in Seattle. And he goes, yeah, you got a point there. It's pretty boring here, but it's just the way we like it. I get that. Maybe when I get older, I'll want to go somewhere where it's, more boring and there's just not a lot going on. All right, it's going to be 65 and sunny today. Maybe I'll mow the lawn and I don't know, just figure it out. Maybe I'll be there at some point. But right now, I like doing this. I like covering this stuff. The enemy will consume us until nothing remains. Maybe. It's hard to say, though. So, all right, let's jump on in. We've got another story here. This one, I enjoy covering this topic because I'm not shocked, but I'm kind of like, how do we get a president elected like we did in the last election, and yet 3 times the number of viewers view the media of the dude who didn't get elected? How does this work? What's going on there? What are the dynamics? Well, we don't get into those actual dynamics, but we talk about the numbers. Fox News crushes CNN, MSNBC viewership as Don Lemon's morning show has its worst week since launch. Fox and Friends more than tripled the audience of CNN this morning. I'm reading this to you from Fox because there is virtually nobody else who reports on these statistics, because CNN statistics are so bad. How does that even pass as a viable news network? And I'll tell you why some of it happens. Let's watch this. Let me pop this little video up for you. Let me pop up this little gem and we'll talk about it. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go that. We're going to start from the beginning. I got to do my headphones. I'm hoping you guys can hear this. No audio. Okay. All right. You want to fix it?
Let me just explain.
Yeah, I've got other video I want to watch though. Let's see. Sorry, folks. Technical delay. There's no sound. Yep, got it. So have I got it canceled down below here though?
You can hear anything on here?
What's that?
I don't even hear anything.
No. So we need to go escape, and then we need to go here and this. Okay, so we've got an audio setting that's off. All right. I'll just bypass it. Yep. All right. Sorry about that, folks. No audio. We'll fix that later. What? Here's the deal. So Stephen Colbert calls out. You saw the and I apologize for that. Got all these little switches and things. Sometimes they combat each other, and volume here. I got to wear headphones. Volume there. So what we saw there, and I listened to the audio before, it was Stephen Colbert was ripping on Don Lemon for wearing a hoodie. And it was a hoodie. He tried to pass it off as a sweater with a hood on it. That's a hoodie. Sorry, Don. That's a hoodie. So he spends a good portion of his time with his co-host talking about his fashion. Talking about his fashion, not the news. So no wonder, CNN has got this whole issue. Because when they do get to the news, it's so wacky one direction that it's just not believable. And I think a lot of people realize that, and they're like, nah, we gotta even this out by going to look and see what's on Fox. So that's what they do. Okay. Let me recover here from my no. What happened here? All right. That's not the article I needed to show you. What happened? Back. There we go. All right. We're getting it. We're getting it. Fox News Channel continued to dominate cable news viewership last week as MSNBC and CNN struggled. So Fox News averaged 1.4 million viewers from January 16th to 22nd, making it the only basic cable channel to crack the 1 million viewer mark. ESPN finished second with an average audience of 825,000, followed by NBC, HGTV, and Hallmark Channel. CNN managed an average of only 417,000 viewers during the same period. 417,000 viewers. And you got the entire world available to watch it. That's basically, Tim Pool had, close to 200,000, I think, views on, was it 175,000 views on the live stream with Steven Crowder? I mean, you hear what I'm saying here. So Fox 1.4, ESPN. People care twice as much about sports as they do the news that CNN is putting out. That is wild to me. I mean, it used to be back in the day. Got to stop saying wild so much. Sorry. It's just such an easy word because so many of these storylines are just, what's going on. Fox News also obliterated CNN during the primetime hours of 8 to 11 p.m., averaging nearly 2 million total viewers compared to only 444,000 for CNN. So, I mean, 450%, something like that there. CNN is just being crushed. And it's my understanding, and we've talked about this a number of times, that Stephen Colbert is up for possibly hosting. Was it Stephen Colbert or was it one of these late night talk show hosts that I don't watch? Looking at taking the 10 o'clock slot. They're trying to get a comedian type dude in to compete with Greg Gutfeld because his show is bringing in, over 1 million per episode for sure. I don't know if you've watched that show. I watch it every now and then because it's kind of it's a comedy show, but it's also kind of a freak show. What are they going to say next? What funny story? And they've got the big dude, the wrestler who brings his enormous, that guy's huge. He brings his enormous belt in. They've got quite a cast of characters on that show, but it's doing really well. One thing that came to mind when I was reading this news article was you don't hear Tucker Carlson reviewing his own wardrobe and making excuses for this. This isn't a hoodie. This is a sweater. It's got a hood on it. It's a sweatered hood. That's different. Tucker Carlson gets on and gives you his opinion, gives you what's been written for him and does it in just boom, boom, boom. Same with the majority of the other guys from Fox. You might not agree with what they're saying. You might think that their storyline's off, although oftentimes I believe it's fairly accurate. It's just got a real hard right push to it. And some of that is because they're the biggest, conservative network out there. And they need to fight against the nonsense that is CNN. The CNN's basically taking themselves out of this fight. They've got their new CEO, Jeff Licht, who took over for the guy who had an affair with his coworker for 15 years, but was out in the open about it. What was up with that? Yeah, that had to do with the whole Time Warner purchase, and they came in and bought CNN, and they just, dumped the company upside down and said, we're starting over. We're actually going to move more to the center, and we're going to report on the news now. Oh, what were you doing before? I think before they were literally just, reporting on Orange Man bad, and then when he's no longer office, they realized that, coming on 3 years with him being gone, they didn't have a lot else to really center their audience with. So you are literally seeing the fallout from that as we talk, because these numbers are they're substantially disparate between Fox and CNN. MSNBC continued to struggle among the advertiser-coveted demographic of adults aged 25 to 54, even losing to rates-challenged CNN among the critical category. Fox News averaged 176,000 viewers among the key demo compared to 80,000 for CNN and a dismal 69,000 for MSNBC. That's in a demographic. So during prime time, Fox News averaged 256,000 demo viewers, while CNN managed 93,000. They're just getting crushed on every single segment of the news. And MSNBC settled for a dismal 91,000. I used to watch MSNBC back in the day for some of my financial news. They would have more what I would consider accurate reporting, or people that understood some of the bond markets, some of those types of things. So I would tune in there, and there was less, partisan type coverage. But I don't trust anything out of hardly anybody anymore. I just don't. You see a storyline and you go, okay, I agree with that part. This part over here, you're over exaggerating. This part here is probably just flat not true. And I think there's a lot of aspects to what CNN reports on that to me, they just flat don't ring true. So I, can't really go that route. I will read CNN articles because if I can get my point across with CNN articles and I can say, hey, I read all kinds of sources, and I do. I regularly read from CNN. There are a couple of good authors. There's a couple of good reporters for CNN, but they are few and far between, right? Excuse me. Despite topping MSNBC, the tiny demo audience for CNN was the network's worst turnout in the category since May of 2014. So they are just continually getting clobbered. CNN this morning, the recently launched morning program built around Don Lemon. Remember, he came from night television. He was one of their premieres. They moved him to the morning, the 9 o'clock slot. What a downgrade. Hey, there's Don Lemon on the 9 o'clock? He's doing, wake up with Don Lemon and let me read you the night's news, because the real guys got to record the news there. I don't even know who's on CNN anymore. It had its smallest audience since its launch last year among both total viewers and the crucial demo. Fox and Friends averaged 1.3 million viewers, while CNN this morning managed only 331,000. So again, quadrupled, more than quadrupled, I think that comes out to, right? When it comes to the key demo, Fox and Friends averaged 180,000 viewers compared to only 65,000 for CNN's morning show. So you've got a multiplier of what Fox does numbers-wise versus CNN of 3 or 4 times consistently. While CNN this morning struggled to attract viewers, it did land some free promotion when late-night host Stephen Colbert's mocked Lemon's wardrobe. Here's a good photo of it. And we can take a look here. On the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, the comedian insulted the hoodie sweater and suit jacket combination that Lemon wore Thursday on CNN. So what I wanted you to see, which we didn't have audio for earlier, was Don Lemon explaining that that's not a hoodie. I'm very fashionable and I have a lot of wardrobe, and that wasn't a hoodie. That was a sweater with the hood attached to it. I mean, seriously, if you're going to say that kind of stuff, I'm going to go to you for fashion advice, maybe, but you're a network morning person and you're explaining what you got going on. I don't watch CNN much. Yeah, that's kind of where we sit, right? So even Stephen Colbert takes a pop at CNN. But it's going to be interesting to see how CNN approaches that 10 o'clock slot, because, that's where the big boys, kind of compete with that whole comedy type thing. And as of lately, Fox has just been crushing it with Greg Gutfeld. And I think he's funny, but I read so much news that at the end of a day, I don't really need to have more jokes on top of the content I've already done. Maybe you haven't read any news, and I think a lot of people haven't read any news throughout the day, but I kind of do it for a living. So I don't need more humor. I need to know what the actual story was. And so I'm going to go to other areas for that. But I do find the content on the Greg Gutfeld show entertaining. It's rather cutting at times, but it's funny, right? It's like Steven Crowder, and I hear him say stuff and I cringe. So it makes it funny. It's funny. I believe a great man once said, "What the fuck is that?" Colbert said while showing an image of Lemon in the getup. Okay, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, admitted. The 5 was the most watched cable news offering of the week with an average audience of 3.3 million viewers. That's Gutfeld show, isn't it? I think so. While Tucker Carlson Tonight, Jesse Waters Primetime, Hannity, and Special Report with Brett Baer rounded out the top 5. Along the way, Fox News aired 92 of the 100 most watched cable news telecasts last week. 92 out of 100. That is crushing it. That is absolutely crushing it. And mainstream media, you know what they do? Yeah, some people are watching our stuff. I mean, some people, vast majority of people don't know how disparate these numbers are because they don't pay attention. And that's why I kind of want to bring it up, because those numbers are, yeah. Yeah, it's something else, right? So those shows, Tucker Carlson, I enjoy watching Tucker, but I also find I can only take so much because he's just got that whole, I find like I either got to watch an episode of Tucker or I got to watch an episode of Ben Shapiro, because they're just kind of like, all right, I can watch him for 15 minutes. I'll get the storyline, figure it out. And some of Tucker Carlson's writing, though, is really, really strong. You know, it's not his delivery. It's his delivery on top of what's written for him that's really interesting. Jesse Waters, primetime, I enjoy watching Jesse Waters. I like the way that he delivers things. I find him to be believable, and his storylines, I'm like, yep, 2 thumbs up. I can go with that. Sean Hannity, yes, I can watch Sean Hannity, but I would watch Jesse Waters in front of him. Hannity has a better understanding of a lot of topics than I do on certain stuff. So I respect him for that. Special Report with Brett Baer. I have been listening, I think it's his podcast. I've been listening to his podcast lately, and I get a lot of good stuff from that. Fox News in the morning is one of the news sources that I hit up pretty regularly. Hit Fox Local, Fox News. Como here in Seattle, which is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting, conservatives. I will watch a lot of that. But then I'm going to go through and I'm going to see what everybody else has to offer too, because you got to know what the other guy is doing so that you can kind of write where you sit. And there are some stories that everybody's like, huh, this is a wild one. And then they, pitch it the way that they do. So I take a look at everything. See what people are doing, because then all right, so if they're reporting it this way, this is probably the way I would understand it and the way I would report it. But every now and then you get one of those stories where you're like, wow, this came out of left field and CNN wrote it. That's weird. Let's cover it. All right. So those are the numbers. That's kind of what's going on. This is much of the same. And this is why CNN has had such a massive shakeup, because after Orange Man Bad left office, or wasn't reelected, however you want to look at that, a lot of mainstream media has just tanked, because everybody was like, we hate him so much, we're going to do yet another story on him. How about all these ridiculous top secret files being found? Mike Pence, seriously, is this stuff even top secret? Do we care? Hey, the one story that we're going to cover as soon as it comes out, maybe it's out. Can you guys tell me? I would love to know the Paul Pelosi. I want to see that police cam footage. And I'm doing this because some officer had a cam on his chest, right? And when Paul Pelosi came to the door and opened the door in his underwear, he was in his boxers. Somebody was saying, oh, he wasn't in his underwear. He was just wearing boxers, and he was wearing a loose-fitting sleeping shirt. All right. It sounds like underwear to me. But anyway, so Paul Pelosi comes to the door, and he opens the door, and then he walks immediately back to the dude that is going to slam him in the head with the hammer. I want to see that footage. I want to see what we're missing. And the fact that there's been such a fight against having that footage released. And you know what their argument is? Well, that footage could have been tampered with. Really? What are you going to edit in there? What are you going to edit in there? What are you going to add? What are you going to subtract? I want to see that footage. That footage last night was, I think a judge ordered that footage to be released. That should be some good stuff. I want to see that. I want to see what the deal is there, because I've had kind of running bets with a lot of my friends about what is, thanks, Jeff. You're correct. Hit that like button. I've had a lot of friends say, I think this happened. And I'm kind of like, well, you remember what Elon Musk said that he thought happened? That I think it was the Mercury News, small little paper out of somewhere in California. They said something happened, might have been a rendezvous, something like that, something along those lines. We don't really know. I think that very well could have happened. Tim Pool thinks it might have been drugs, might have been a drug. Pelosi's like, what, 81, 80, maybe older? Is his wife, she's 81 and maybe he's 83. Yeah, short of Viagra, you're not doing a lot of hardcore drugs in your early 80s. That's just my take on things because your body can't take it. You know better. All right. That's it for me on this one. I'm going to go ahead on this story, though. I'm going to move on. We've got one more. I'm going to talk with you guys a little bit in the chat here. Marfugal TV from Seattle on the tube. All right. Paul is on felony probation, just saying. And the war on drugs and the streets get cleaned up since they won't have to gather in slums to get drugs. You have to think, didn't have drug slums cities until drug prohibition started. That is true. That is true. What are we going to do there? Hannity is a liberal with a gun who sucks. Trump 2024. Fox is Amish. All right. Are they? What matters is what Pelosi's probation officer thinks. Yeah, you know, there's going to be some stuff coming out there, right? I was hearing something about the shuffling of diamonds in and out of Ukraine during Obama years with those papers, but waiting to hear more. I'd hear about that. I'd like to hear about that. I want to hear about, let's go back to what Jeff Grill was saying. Help me out by hitting the like button. Hit the like button, share the content with whomever you can, because my content is not getting pressed out. We know that for just a fact. I've had many of you say, hey, you know, I watched that one podcast of yours and I went back to find it in Google and I had to go through page after page to finally find that where that is. That is an example of being shadow banned. And that is going on the daily, not just to me, but to a lot of folks who are bringing light to these stories that aren't necessarily getting the full sunlight, shall we say, that they probably deserve. Paul Pelosi's story being one of them. It's like, what happened there? What's the deal there? Yeah, I want to see that footage. I'm excited to see that footage. I hope it's good. I hope they had good footage. You just don't know. Because, you know, where was that guy standing at the door? Was the door open? We have a clear shot because it's my understanding that Paul Pelosi, you know, opened up the door. This is after half an hour of the dude being there, right? What happened in that half an hour? Inquiring minds want to know, don't they? All right, let's get on Rumble. Yep, I am on Rumble. I am on Odyssey. The problem there is that, I don't know if you're talking about me getting on Rumble, but we're there, but you can't make any money there. And for those of you watching this live stream on Rumble, thank you so much for being there. I am working on a way to have your comments integrated in with the rest of our comments because we've got these streaming feeds and Rumble doesn't have a natural integration. And that's part of the problem is you got to basically set up everything separate on Rumble and on Odyssey to a certain extent as well, so that you can get everything brought in. They don't have the mechanism set up that all the other platforms do yet. And so, you know, you can say Rumble, get on Odyssey. We've already got content there. It doesn't get a lot of views. It doesn't get a lot of action. And that's mainly because, and I don't know if this is in response to that, but I think it probably is. You can't make any money there. And we're already there. And we've already been on Rumble for, I think, over a year. And what's so interesting is a lot of people are, I didn't know you were there. Well, we don't advertise it a ton because, you know, why would we? People that know, that want to watch us are there. And they know we're already putting a lot of content there. In fact, that is where all of our content for reasonabletv.com, that's our subscription service, $10 a month. And that's where all the stuff that I can't show elsewhere goes. And that's where I'm able to give the real sunlight to the topics that aren't going to get through the filtering system of censorship elsewhere. And also, if, you know, one day you wake up and I'm just deplatformed from a whole bunch of places, you're going to be able to find me on a, you know, podcast platform like Rumble. So that's some of what we're doing is we're working out some exit strategies in case the S hits the fan. And that's what we got to do. All right, let's move on. Let's check out this topic. This is an interesting one from the standpoint of I'm a real estate guy, and you've got literally a building being constructed with no permit, no nothing, in a homeless encampment. And the guy who's building it is probably on meth, I'm guessing, maybe fentanyl. Don't really know. He's wearing a mask in most of the interviews, but his girlfriend looked a little meth-ish. They're literally building, and it's not just a tiny house. It's a fairly good-sized tiny house with a porch, actual foundation, and all the stuff was found in the dumpsters. It's some good-looking dumpster material. I have not seen dumpster material like that ever. I mean, they must just be throwing away actual building material straight from Home Depot into dumpsters, and this guy's just finding it there. Let's check out Seattle couple explains why they're building a home in the median of an interstate ramp. What is going on? We don't have audio, but we've got words, we've got text on this one. So let's go ahead and play it, and you can just take a look and see. Now, this is on the on-ramp, off-ramp of the busiest on-ramp, basically into downtown Seattle. So like if you're a business dude, or if you're going to a concert, you could very well take this exit off-ramp, or if you're getting back in from kind of the north end of, if you're getting back on the freeway, this is what you would go past. You would go past this silliness right here. Let me get it up for you. All good things must come to an end, is what he said at the end there. All good things coming to an end. So living in a structure built out of what I'm going to assume, I'm just going to go down this road, stolen goods. Because I looked at the photos. Can I get the yeah, okay, here we go. Got the individuals photos up here for you. Any of you guys out there that have done carpentry? Do those boards look like scrap to you? Do those boards look that they are warped and maybe, the reject pile? No, those are pretty straight. This guy's got to have some kind of framing background, right? He's been a contractor. So part of my reason for reading this story is if you are able to construct this, you've got a skill set that's going to allow you to afford housing. But you're living here because you're doing drugs, you're hooked on drugs, and this is how you're making it work. This is how you're making your system work. You can't hold down a job, but you've got the skill set to build this structure. I don't know if you saw it. Let's keep looking through the photos here. Okay, so you've got a framed out roof, and I believe you've got vaulted ceilings in there. I can't confirm. I should have asked Jeremy. He's the reporter that was on this, but you can literally see this structure as you go by. I did just that last Sunday and saw this structure. How about a building permit? Because in the city of Seattle or anywhere around here, if you started building that in your backyard as a tax-paying citizen who pays their mortgages and their taxes on time, if you started building a structure like this, city officials would be on you in a heartbeat. They would red tag you so quickly, right? They would red tag you, meaning, if you're not familiar with that term, it's a red notice, stop construction. You do not have a permit. There's no permit posted. We don't have anything in our system for you to build this structure. Yet this guy is 3/4 of the way done, maybe even further. And he's got building paper up there. So I am led to believe he's going to put composition shingles. He's just got to be able to find a place where he can steal enough of them to put this together. Now, there's no indication that he's stolen any of it. He said that he got it from the dumpster. What do you guys think? What are the odds of that? Let me know in the comments. Did this individual just come across the jackpot in the dumpster and carry all this stuff? I mean, the effort it took to get this stuff to this site. There's a bunch of sheets of plywood. So if you saw some guys, if you're in Seattle and you saw some guys carrying some pretty good looking 4x8 sheets of, wafer board, plywood, whatever. Yeah, it ended up there. It ended up here. Because from my standpoint, how about that window? So they're stealing this stuff from a job site, clearly. Or they're buying it from somebody who's got the big 5-finger discount. We found this in the dumpster. Here you go. Here's a deal on this. I mean, he's making risers for his front porch. I believe he's got it on concrete footings. I mean, this thing is built right. He hit the treasure trove in the dumpster. And I know I'm, being ridiculous, but look at that lumber. You going to tell me you found that in a dumpster? I don't think so. You found building paper? And then he goes on at the end to say, yeah, all good things will come to an end. They also, part of what you don't hear on here is that they told him, don't get too comfortable. Don't get too comfortable in this environment. I mean, how long was he expecting to be able to live in this structure? I know in other parts of the country, there are structures like this. Down at Skid Row, you've got stuff like this. Down in the Soto area of Seattle, you've got stuff like this. But eventually they clear it out because, let's be honest, it's pretty hypocritical to make other people pull building permits and to let this stuff go. But we've let the whole homeless thing go for so long, so hard, that you're literally looking at, stuff being built on city land with power being taken from a nearby transformer. This area in 2021, you saw the burning, you saw that burning apocalyptic type view of that's when you get on the on-ramp. That's where I was on Sunday. I was doing that exact drive. So if you looked out your right-hand window, you would see that burning camp setup in 2021. It was a big burn. So they cleared it. They've cleared it again. It's just one of those encampments that continually pops up. And it's always there. And the mayor is, cleaning it out, comes back, cleaning it out. But now it's got its own tiny home. This is probably not the best place to have that because literally, I don't know how many thousands of people a day coming in and out of Seattle look at that and go, what's that over there? Are they building a new bus stop? That's a weird spot for a bus stop because it's so out of place. And yet it's Seattle. It makes so much sense. Do we have anything more here? That's the view that you get when you're going on the on-ramp to the freeway. You get a little bit of in between the trees, kind of down the thing, and found it all in the dumpster. Weird, right? I mean, how does that work on? Let's read here. Drivers who enter I-5 at Seattle's Mercer Street on-ramp pass by a growing encampment for the unhoused that is obscured behind trees and repurposed Welcome to South Lake Union banners. That's where this is. This is where Amazon headquarters is, just a couple of blocks away. It's welcome to Seattle. Inside the camp, Candace and Mark, who asked to be identified only by their first names, are busy building their home. This is their home. This is where they're living. Will they get it finished? Will they get the interior finished? Will they get this weatherproof before summer? I mean, if this happened to somebody in real estate world, it would come to an end just like that. Just like that. That's what drives me so crazy about this. And yet this guy's got this up and framed. I don't see any red tags. It's because we know that eventually city's going to come in and, all right, we got to clear this out. What a waste of a perfectly good home. They should put this guy to work building tiny homes for the city. He's clearly very skilled at it. He just is, right? And he's very skilled at acquiring discounted materials for said projects. I bet you the city could save a lot by just looking through their dumpsters and finding these building materials. Good stuff in Seattle dumpsters, apparently. 99% of this home is stuff that came out of dumpsters, Mark told Como. We don't have a house or a home right now, and this is how we know to survive. All right? This is not how we do it. This is not how we live. And yet, there's a big segment of people who are doing exactly this in the face of everybody else who's living the legit, lifestyle. Paying my taxes. That guy over there, he's got a house. It's going on with that? Mark said it's taken him about a month to build the tiny house, which includes an A-framed roof, foundation, window, and door. All from the dumpster. Interesting. We found ourselves on the sidewalk after that with all our stuff, just trying to guard it. Well, that's what happens when you don't pay rent. That's what happens when family and friends finally give up on you because of your drug addiction and the way it's ruining families and the way it's ruining your life. That's what happens. You end up on the sidewalk with all your stuff. Unfortunately, that's how this goes. We figured we'd built this structure here because it's better than just a tent, he said. So you see the logic here? It's better than a tent. It is. But it's also highly illegal. And yet the city just allows it to happen. The city is just like, well, we know it's out there. We're going to deal with it. But the deal with that is they can only get to so many encampments at once, right? They got to schedule it. They got to go out there. They got to tell the people 10 ways from Sunday that they got to move. They got to let people know we can store your stuff for 90 days. We're not going to throw it away. And then the people just end up leaving half their crap anyway, because it's literally just junk they picked up off the side or took from other people. The house is going up in the same encampment where Como reported last week about a series of fires, threats with weapons, and damage to the Seattle City and power light infrastructure. So I podcasted on this. Somebody had a bat with a nail through it. Like it was some real road warrior type, weapons. Just like, all right, that's actually more that I should probably rephrase that. That's more like Conan the Barbarian. Remember the first Conan the Barbarian? Schwarzenegger was just enormous. He was coming out of the golden area and he was transitioning in from bodybuilding into movies. He could barely speak. He just had that real strong accent, Eastern European accent. And somebody asked him, he was sitting around talking with people and they asked him, what is success? And I forget how this goes, but it's like, to crush your enemies and have the lamentations of their women in front of you. It was something like that. I know you guys will post that, but it was something along those lines. And I was pretty young when that came out. And I'm like, oh, if Arnold says that's true, well then that must be what the definition of success is. Crush your enemies, take all their chicks, and have them lament you with how great you are. I can buy that. But, they were also running around with clubs with nails coming out of them. And that's exactly what this encampment has had running around. There's a dude with a baseball bat with a nail through it. That's not going to strike one's all you need there, right? The property where they are building the house belongs in part to the Seattle Department of Transportation and Washington Department of Transportation. Good. We got two agencies involved here. It should, go on forever. Both agencies told Como that they're aware of the encampment and they are coordinating on how to deal with it. It should take a year. Now, this thing will be swept out. What always happens is the minute you get a reporter in there, yeah, people are like, those aren't good optics. We need to clear that one out. Schedule that one. Let's put a rush on that one. We need to rush the clearing out of that. And going back to the structure itself, they're just going to demo it. That's sad. I mean, okay, this guy put a bunch of his time and effort into it, but somebody could use that, but they're just going to bring, whatever in and just demolish it and pick it up and put it in the back of a dump truck or a dumpster and haul it out. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell addressed the Mercer Street encampment in an interview with Como on Tuesday. Here's what Mayor Bruce Harrell had to say. And this is what Bruce Harrell has to say about a lot of this stuff because there's so many encampments, they can't get to it all. Here's the standard statement. We are trying to do through using utility discounts and our housing strategies is meeting people where they are and getting them sheltered in places they don't have to do that. It's unsafe, unlawful, and we don't suggest people do that at all. It's intolerable for our administration. How about the residents of the city, Mayor Bruce Harrell? I get what he's saying. He's got to put out a statement saying, hey, we're not living with this, but there's so much of it going on that they can't get around all of it. It's, you clear out one encampment here, it's back. I don't know how many times this encampment has been here. I'm totally guessing 4 3, 4, 5, maybe dozens of times if you go back the last 20 years. Because I remember as like a teenager going into Seattle, and I would hear about Nicholsville. That was Mayor, was it Greg Nichols? That was a long time ago. We had a mayor that they called Nicholsville, and you could see it from the freeway. And it was just, it was one of our first big homeless encampments. Was it I think it was a certified encampment. Did we have some certified encampments back then? I wasn't paying attention. I was chasing girls and trying to get my career going and, working a lot of hours. I didn't have time for this kind of silliness, but I did read the news and, this area of Seattle has had this kind of stuff go on repeatedly. And so the mayor's got to come out with a statement. That's what he's like, we know it's there. We're going to fix it. We'll get to it. We got a lot else going on. Meanwhile, Kias and Hyundais are being stolen at record levels. And the graffiti in Seattle is just, thought we were putting some of those guys in jail. Maybe they're out on their own personal recognizance. But yeah. All right. That is it for me on this one. Thank you so much for attending. I'm going to go over here. Talk to you guys for a second. See what we got. See what's happening. All right, let me back up over here and we'll hit some comments and see what you guys are thinking. Maybe it's pretend. Close to the bus lines. Yeah, that was one of my thoughts. What a waste of skill. That actually sad someone doing that. That was my thought too as well. It's just you laugh, but you shouldn't laugh. You'd be like, get that thing out of here. You can't build without a building permit. I mean, real people wait years to get a building permit, and you're just out there just building something up. Close to the bus lines. Yes, it is. Close to freeway amenities. Yeah. The air pollution on some of these encampments. They got one big encampment in Seattle that's getting a lot of news coverage. It's I-5 right by the Ship Canal Bridge, a little bit to the north of where I'm talking about here. But there's a whole bunch of people living under the freeway, not in a van down by the river. They are living under the freeway because, that whole concrete structure thing, it kind of insulates them from the weather. But you've literally got people from the encampment running across the freeway, running across the express lanes. They are in real time with their lives playing Frogger with the cars coming by, right? All right, here's the car coming. If I run now, I can get out in that middle lane. All right, and then I got to stop, got to wait for that car to go by, and then I keep going. They're literally playing human Frogger. And residents are saying, yeah, this isn't going to end up well. Well, I would agree. And it's happening at night. So homeless are crossing the freeway at night. And the city of Seattle, they've got to clear out that one as well. Maybe it's pretend. Yeah, in the heart of downtown. Yeah, in the heart of downtown. I mean, this could be an Airbnb, couldn't it? I mean, they should have a listing on this. Yeah, no running water. Well, they might have electricity. So many of these encampments, you see a power cord, an extension cord, and you're like, I don't like where this is going. Like literally, physically, you don't like where it's going. And then somebody's got, power, one of the power stands just torn apart and got this jerry-rig system up in there. And you're like, okay, that probably doesn't meet code. You see that all the time. Some dude who has a rudimentary understanding of electricity, wires it in. And then they string the extension cord from tent to tent to tent. And everybody's all happy they can charge their stolen iPhones. At least he's attempting personal responsibility. Okay, well, all right. Yeah, just not in a direction that's probably the best. He should be getting out getting a job, shouldn't he? If he has that skill set, he should be out doing something, contributing to society. It's quite nice. That was my thought, Samantha, is that is a quite nice structure. I have seen worse. I have appraised worse. I have legit appraised worse. You get out to somebody's house and they're like, yep, built this myself. And you're like, looks like you did. All right, I'm going to start this marble on the floor. We're going to see how far this bad boy goes. You may have a problem with your foundation. Just want to let you know about that. And the house is just, cockeyed. Heck of a dumpster. Yeah. Heck of a dumpster, right? I mean, but the guy's got no car. Does somebody has a truck and they're just putting it all in there. I don't know. I'd love to know the mechanics of this. How's this go? Sean, you need to interview this guy. I could probably get that interview. I probably could, but where's it going to go? What would I do with it? Like, all right. Cause he wouldn't talk. Hey, I'm a real estate guy and I've got a conservative podcast and I would like to talk to you. I would love to interview him though. I may float that idea the next time I have contact with, the individual who this is his story. The most socialized states have all these problems. Keep voting yourselves into extreme poverty. Yeah. And I always say, hey, make that vote count. So that that's the bottom line, right? Whether you vote one way or the other, if you're okay with having people do this stuff and build these homes the way they're doing, these structures, these encampments, keep voting for who you got in place, because eventually you got to get enough people who say, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And Mayor Bruce Harrell has done some of the, no, we're not doing that. But he doesn't have enough bandwidth to get out and ahead of this, in my opinion. Doesn't have enough bandwidth. And nobody has enough housing to put all these people in it. And these folks don't want to go in it. I don't know if you saw the wife or girlfriend or whatever it was in this video. She's on something for sure. I mean, or has been recently. There's a reason they're living in a home, tiny home, that they've constructed on the median to one of Seattle's busiest on-ramps. Right? There's a reason, right? Yeah. An interview what would I even say? So I'm going to press you here. I'm going to go down a hard line of questioning. I'm going to call bullshit that you got all these materials out of the dumpster. What say you? The guy would just clearly, oh no. I'm like, are you kidding me? You know how expensive that one piece of timber is right there? How about those 4 stringers you got up there? What you're telling me that you found this? Interview over. Dude walks off. Goes to get his next hit of fentanyl or whatever it is. Yeah. I'm a Barbarian. Yeah. It was such a great movie. I didn't like the second one though, but I did watch it. You had, was it Grace Slick? Was she in it? I think was Grace Slick in the second Conan the Barbarian movie? I think she was. Everything got worse after that. That was like the end of the golden era of great movies. And yeah. And then all things just went sideways. Never will be a perfect world. Police state tyranny always makes it worse and more visible. Unintended consequences. Yeah. Some of the stuff that we've got going on is you don't have enough police. And the police we do have are woefully. They don't have the tools to actually apprehend the criminals, and they're told, no, don't do that. Let them go. We don't want you chasing after them. All this other stuff that they used to be able to do, they just can't do it. Might take a little more work to dismantle than the chicken house I built when Dad said that it was too soon. It's going to take some work, isn't it? Yeah. It's going to take some work to bring that bad boy down. Just call it modern art. Yeah. Or modern living. This is an alternative to modern living. It's a tiny house. $399 a night. Seattle, close to downtown. It's Seattle. All right. Thanks so much, guys. I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to go eat some lunch. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And I hope you got something out of today's live stream. Doing this more often is a great way for me to get out the news quickly. And as soon as that Pelosi story comes out, I'm Johnny on the spot. All right. That's it for me. Thanks again for being here. Thanks again for supporting. I'll catch up with you in the next one. We'll probably live stream tomorrow. So I hope to see you then. Talk then.